Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. I'm a professional artist working from my studio in Essex in the UK and painting plein air in the countryside. Well, I've managed to prise myself out of the studio today. It's rather cloudy, as you can see, and but I just got fed up with being tied into that studio environment. So I want to get out in the fresh air. So I've cycled with all my gear. One or two problems en route, but never mind, I'm here. And I've cycled about 10 minutes from my studio in Gallywood, and as you probably noticed, there is a railway line, so unfortunately we may get some noise on occasions, but behind me is a lovely old oak tree. Well, actually there's two, but they're blended into one, and I want to capture that. Alright, it's a grey day, but so what, you know? Can we see colour? Of course there's colour. You've just got to look for it. And when you see colour, you've got to enhance it. And that's the way I paint dull days, really. They're dull, but they've got a little bit of life and colour. And unusually, today, I'm painting using acrylic. So I think I better get set up and we'll see how we get on. Well, a lot of people say to me, what is your setup with acrylics? Well, it's no more simpler than this, really. I've got a mixing tray here. That's the lid to the water container. So the mixing tray, I've got, for today, it's autumnal scenes. So we've got browns, reds and blues. And we do have, obviously, plenty of white. We have burnt sienna, cadmium yellow. We've got vermilion, which is the red. We've got burnt umber, and I've got a Windsor blue or Prussian blue, whichever you like. And that's all my brushes lined up, and just got to pour a little bit of water in there to keep the brushes moist, and I'm good to go. Well, before we go too far, I'm going to take in the scene and have a very small hand flask of coffee. That's my normal procedure. Well, there is pretty much the scene in front of me. I'll go in a bit closer. Yes, that's it. And our first train has just gone by. So that's the tree. I don't know whether you can see in the distance there, we've got Gallywood Church. So that is going to be an interesting part of the scene. It's bigger than it looks on the camera, so that's always useful. There we have the scene, and that's my board. And as always, well, usual with acrylics, I won't be putting a pencil drawing down. I'm going straight in with the colour. I've got to be quick, so let's get it done. Well, it's grey. Well, to me, we need white, obviously. A bit of water on the brush there, just to thin it a touch. This is acrylic paint, so obviously it's water-based. I like water-based rather than oil, but there you go. Hope I'm not covering the mic over. And greys. Well, it's quite a murky grey, really. So greys, let's take a brown to start with. There we are, we're getting a warm grey from that. And I'm going to take a red. So we warm that grey up, and a yellow. Then we drop in a blue. So it's a mixture of all the colours. And that, to me, is possibly a pretty good grey for this. And we've got to work quick, the less brush strokes you use, the better. Although so I've been told with acrylics. Although some people do work quite considerably fast with acrylics, but most people work fairly slow and blend. But I've just got to establish where, there we go, so you get lovely flow, lovely feel of movement. Although the sky is dead still, you get a nice feel of movement, and you get a little bit more red now to the white. See how it's gone a little bit pinky? Because that's what I want that lower area to be like. I want that pinkiness in the lower part of the sky. Now the sky is fairly high, so I'm going to finish somewhere along that edge there, where the trees stand up, and then it just more or less goes straight the way across. We can sort that out shortly, but basically that is the first colours that I need to lay on. I'm also looking to paint in obviously where the track comes, which is very important, and I'm adding a bit of burnt sienna to that pinky blue. Come back in to areas where, see where that, let's give it a little bit of a brown tinge, oh that's the word, and that sort of like comes there. That's where the little bridge is, and that sweeps like that. We can't see the track here, but I need to paint it so I know where I am. Then as we come forward, we add a little bit more of the red, and see where I've added the red into the track where, well, I can see red there, or brown, but it's not quite as strong as that, but I've made it stronger. So that's the track. Now I've added a little cadmium yellow to that with the brown, because we've got that sort of yellowy, let's just bring out a bit more of that yellow, there we are, sort of distant field there, and it's an earthy tone, and that comes down into a wooded area. There's the river Wid that runs along the bottom there, so, and I'm just going to slap in a touch more of that yellow. I like the idea of that, and then this side, a bit more of the yellow, and we add the blue, and we get a sort of like a green tinge to it, which is there are touches of green, but we've certainly got a tinge of green there. And tinge, is that a term? I don't know, but not really worried too much. Bit more yellow, a bit more of the blue too. There we go, and that is the field there. So we're just mapping out really the colours that that will be used in a bit more blue, a bit more red, sorry, a bit more blue, a bit more yellow, because I need a little bit, that's it, a sort of like a sweeter green. That's it. See, I've got a nice sweet green. I call it a sweet green, but well, that's really the term. It's more yellow green, I suppose. But I'm gradually tinting that green and adding that and pulling that forward. Now I'm really going with the colours in there. A bit more blue, because I want to more or less mix it on the paper, because that way you get nice clean. There we go. So if you mix it on the paper, you add a little bit of blue there and there, and then you pick up a bit of yellow, and that really gives you that sort of glow that I think we're looking for in this foreground. So less brush strokes used. There we go. Lovely. And finally, we do have some touches of brown that run around the track. They're sort of like markings in the field, really. So I've got to put those in. There we are, gently. It's all gently. There we are. And widen them as they come forward. Always gives a lovely feel. 1 or 2 little touches of white here and there, just to give it a bit of life. And I'll tell you what, in the foreground, there's a little bit of red going in too, with a little bit of white. There we are. And that sorts out that particular area. Brilliant. Well, next comes the blue-grey distance. So blue goes in like that, and I'm putting some red with that because that's my church. It would be nice to be a little bit bluer, but not too blue. Notice it's not too blue. I'm still hanging on to this large brush because the church is quite an important feature, and that sits spire, lovely old church spire, sits there. Now we add more white, a bit more blue to that, because I'm trying to pick up this sort of like rather what I'd class as uneasy sort of colouring that you get this time of year in the distance. Yeah, still a bit of blue in there too. Right, there you go. Lovely feel of distant, and I'm just putting a bit of that into that church spire. So I thought that sort of sat up there a little bit too good. That's it. We can deal with that right at the end. There you go. Gallowwood Church, the spire, and now we go off and we produce the fields. Now a bit of blue and a bit of red, a bit of burnt sienna, and a touch of yellow in there as well, because we can begin to see the sienna-y sort of feeling and the sort of rich sort of feel to the leafing that we've got this time of year. And we have some look like pine trees there, so that's always useful to put in, always handy to actually put in. Yeah, we will get the odd car or two, which is not too disturbing, I hope, for you. And then that field slopes down like that. So let's get that sloping so we know where we're going with that before we go too far. And it's quite a clearly defined edge. Well, actually that's on the bottom, so that should have been the other brush, should have been the other way up. Right, now we can fiddle around and mess around with that. That's it. This is the way I see it, and if you paint the way you see it, the chances are you're not going to be too far off of what you're looking for. A bit more of the brown now. There is one or two willows. We've got the river weed runs along the bottom there, so there's one or two willow trees that stand up, and sometimes they shine in the light. Now we haven't got that light today, but as I said when we first started, we may not have the light at the moment, but of course we have the opportunity as artists to create light that isn't there. And if you notice, I'm making more of this than there, because at the moment I want the eye to be drawn to the church tower. Lovely autumnal feel to this, and it's just delicate touches in places. I'm still trying to tell myself that we've got to watch the amount of brush strokes, because I did bleep on about this, didn't I, when we first started, and now well, not forgotten, but right, there you go. And then we've got the lovely big tree stands there, so that's okay. And now we can go back in with some sort of murky greens, typical autumnal colours, and we then have the opportunity later on to put in some dark colour. Now we have a nice building, so I think I'm going to show that at that point. There is a dark tree. Shall we put that dark tree in now? You know, and that sits somewhere about there, and that's not particularly dark, but you've got to remember we've not, as I said, we've not got a lot of sunlight in this painting. A bit more of the earthy colour goes in there, a bit darker along there. That's where the river runs, and we've got some things going on there, so we're not too concerned with that. Right, we can now bring in just a little bit of colour, and the side of that building I want to be in sunlight. Well, I'm talking sunlight, well there isn't any, but in light. Then we run along the edge where the river bank is, and that pretty much does it, I think. Now I'm just adding more blue to that mix, big mix there, but it'll work okay. And oh, there is a nice, right, okay. So, but other than that, this is the edge of that river bank. Has got to continue along there. There we are. Right. So then we have the odd, this is more or less the background sort of tones to start with. There we go. And I might need to nip the brush. And by nipping the brush, I mean removing paint like that. Right, now I'm going to put in this, the building here now. So we've got the roof that runs like that. Nice bit of red, don't mind that. And it also comes down there at an angle like that. There we go. And there again, sorry about the trains, but unfortunately something that you get unfortunately when you're around cities. So that's that. Yeah, now while I have this sort of nice warm tone, I'm going to add yellow to that, and even a spot of red, because I'm trying to depict a tree that will eventually hold in this right hand side, and it's a lovely old sort of tree that stands on that bank, a bit darker in places, a bit more yellow. You know, it's the brush strokes of acrylic and oils that are important, so they are with other mediums really, but there you go. Now I'm adding more blue to that, considerable amounts of blue to that, because I have these rather local conifers that stand up there against that light background like that, and I'm just trying to pick up their shape. A bit more blue now, not too much blue. Now Colin, don't get too excited. There we go. Not bad idea to talk to yourself when when you're out painting. Even tell yourself off, which I quite often do, but I don't take any notice of myself, so there you go. That's that. And then there is another, so like a small one there. I'm still using this same brush. Now you can obviously change brushes, and but at this point I think that seems to work quite well. Right, now we start on the large tree. Well, as I came along, I did look at this lovely large oak tree, and I did look at the colours of the leafing, and I think now I'm starting off more in the centre, and I think I've pretty much got that in a blend. See the way the brush has lots of the colours on there, so as I turn it I will get a variety. Even putting in a bit of red, because it was quite red in places, and I'm not being too bold. It's a little bit open, but not too open. And then we come to the outer edges, and as you know, with these subjects it's all about the impression of leafing. It's not as much creating shapes, it's creating the impression of the shapes. A bit more blue going in. What about a bit of burnt umber? Because there is burnt umber there. There we go. First strokes are, even with acrylic, I find the first strokes are by far the best. I don't know why. You know, they just sort of lend themselves to being pretty good. Well, that's my opinion anyway. I could be going in a lot quicker with this, but I want to take it a bit slower, because I want to show you exactly, you know, it's not all about speed, but it is nice to have a bit of speed. But there we go. So that's the outer shape. Now we go in for the inner shape that gets a little bit bronzy, a little bit browny. Bronzy browny, there we go. And I'm just dropping in one or two of those areas too up there. There we go. It's getting very, very thick paint at the moment, and I'm not too concerned with that, because it will give me the opportunity later on. Now I'm going out now, because I can see we need to have a bit more shape, and I'm just blending in places, and we've got that real sprawl of branch work now running across. I don't want to cut that off because that wouldn't be ideal, but we are going to be very, very dark on these outer edges because I want them to be seen, and a little bit of depth there so we can show a little bit of the sort of tone that we've got. There we go. So far so good. I want to pick up that lovely feeling of branches, but I also want to pick up the time of day as well. You know, we don't want to show getting a bit fussy here. Now, settle down. Really, it's what's in the mind's eye that that counts. So, in other words, half close your eyes. That'll give you a pretty good idea of the sort of colours that you know, the blend of the colours that you can see standing back, because that's another thing, you know, the colours that are there, but of course it's all about the colours that as you stand back. There we go, and I think that pretty much does everything we want it to do. Now, while I have these earthy colours, I've got a bit of bank here that stands up. Now I need reds, and there we are, nice bright reds here that and it's quite spiky, so we do need to incorporate that into the scene. Like that. And we do have one or two little touches here, but just got to be a bit careful because I don't want to get too bulky. And as it goes away, you need to make that a little bit less intense. In other words, smaller brush strokes. And in the foreground, they become rather tall.
As we walked along there, I saw you in the distance and I thought, well, that's a funny thing there. I couldn't quite focus on it being a person.
Well, I have been called a funny thing in the past, but only by my wife, mainly.
As we got closer, do you mind if we have a look?
No, you carry on. Oh. Well, I've just nipped the brush out again, just to clean it off a touch. And now I'm looking for some cleaner green, some more yellowy cleaner green for the lower part of the bank there, and as that goes away gradually gets less and less, because this area is this clean green again. Don't know why I'm calling it clean green, but because we haven't got any clean greens today. But there is a bit of banking there that that runs along the edge like that and round, and it stands up. So we've got some of this grassy area standing high, and that's why I've left that fairly open. There we go, and that goes right the way down and around the corner. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, pops some dark tones there, there, and little touches there as it goes around the corner. Don't want to cover too much. I'm talking to myself because it's so important that you don't overdo things. Right, now I'm going to put some real dark stuff, and dark stuff is red and blue, so it's the vermilion with the Windsor blue, Prussian blue, whatever blue you've got, because I think, from what I can see, and I'm still going to use this same brush. Do you know I'm going to paint the whole thing with this brush? Isn't that amazing? Now we can't see the trunk, but as an artist, I'm going to put it in. And the trunk needs to be, as I always say, thick enough to support the branches you've painted in. And right, then it splits there, so we've got that, and then we've got that area running off there like that, and all the time you've got to get the tone values correct. And then we've got another branch coming up there. And it is an old oak. It's been there a number of years, I would say. A good few number of years. And then you have the smaller branches coming out on the ends. And that's quite thick, so that was a little bit too heavy. But never mind. Do you think anybody will notice that? Don't tell anybody, will you? Don't tell anybody that that branch is a bit thick. And then of course we've got some little branches here and there, just suggesting branches, rather than painting every single one in. And it always is the best way to handle these lovely old trees. Now I'm adding white to that dark colour with some more red, because I want some greys now. Okay, and a bit of brown too, bit of everything. Oh, look at that. Is that the colour I wanted? Don't know. Not sure. But anyway, I'm going to make now a lot more of this tree. Now, I need a bit fuller tone. And some of these brush strokes will be branches. Others could very well be leafing and branches. And that is going right up there. If you notice, I left the extremes until the end, because I can now see the tones required, or the shape required, to produce the supporting branches. There we go. And then it comes out, it lays, which, there we go, look at that, the way it lays across like that. It sort of like sways across. That's the way I see it anyway, and I think that's probably right. And we do then have the odd extra branch there. Little bit of lighter tone in places on the trunk, and just a little bit wider with that trunk. I just felt it needed a little bit more width. I'm going to overdo that, and a bit of red down that side. Put a little bit of blue with that. There we go. Perfect. Lovely old trunk, that. Brilliant. I'm just going to pull this all together now, just with some lighter touches here and there, and some darker touches, of course. The base of the tree, that needs lightening. I'll put that in darker, that shouldn't be. But just a little bit more of this sort of brighter colour in that foreground there. And a little bit more of the grey, just hinting where there's some lighter tree work there. And coming in on the outer edge there. Don't interfere with too much with the, just show some tops of branches and bits and bobs going on there. Then, tell you what, we're nearly to the finishing touches. And that means the rigger. I did think I'd do it all with that, but I'm going to put the rigger in because I need to get those little finishing edges that at the moment I don't think I've got with this brush. Right, finishing touches with the rigger. Just these finishing little branches that I think really should be here, because without them I haven't quite got that sort of nice sort of look to a tree that's beginning to lose leafing really. And so there we are. And some touches of that here in the foreground and all, because that is always a good thing to do. That's really, this is just burnt Windsor blue and vermilion, and I'm just pushing and then lifting. That's all that's really required in this particular passage, and that goes up there like that, and then we show a few more here. They sort of like punctuate the scene really, and if you go overdo it, just push it with the finger. There we go. Don't need too much here. Two little touches there, just to lift off. I like them around the base of trees, I don't know why. Always seems to work well. And then just lighten it a touch with some white, because I do want to put in the odd hint at branches here, and these are going to be lighter, and then blend it. There we are. And then I'm coming down and I'm just scrubbing around. Technical term? Not really. Just scrubbing around really. Try and create a bit of impression as it runs out of picture there. Not getting too complicated around the tree. A bit complicated there. But one thing I do need to put in is a hint of the bridge. And the bridge stands there, because anybody that lives anywhere near here would say, Colin, you've not put the bridge in. And I could of course leave it out, but decided just to pop it in like that, just to help anyone that feels that it really should be in there. And then we go with some deep greens, usual colour, just yellow and blue, more blue than yellow for obvious reasons, and then we have some deep greens there, and that's not all that deep, so I'm going to make it deeper by adding blue. There we go. little touches there. It really is a matter of creating interest in areas that you need it and removing interest in areas that you don't. That's all I'm doing now. Just an impression where the bridge is, like that. And then a bit more light here for the there is a building there, so let's put that in like that. Stick a window in here and there is always useful when you're painting buildings, like that. And as I say, stick a window in, just an impression of a window. No need to get too complicated with windows. It's a bit big for what I wanted. It's not a problem, I'll overpaint in a sec. And we do have something that I've not put in, a lighter feeling for the brickwork on that building. So we've got the roof, then this is the brickwork, like that. There we are. And I've just got to pick up a bit more of the roof colour. Red, really, I suppose. Always good to have some reds in there. The old masters were, well, as I've said, were masters at this sort of painting, where they highlighted some areas and low lighted others. That one has a chimney on. There we go. And next comes a splash of dark. A splash of dark red green to produce a tree that is not really in keeping, because I'm using the rigger here, but I just feel that sort of, oh, and that would show up then, that there we are, that would then show up that that roof area too, and that's what it does. There we are, that punctuates that. Don't really want too much on the outer edges, not a good thing to do. And now I'm just going to sharpen up the church tower. And sharpen up, what do I mean by sharpen up? Well, just give it a little bit more sort of punch, really, because that is very, very narrow. And I'm making it a little larger than I can see, purely because there is just some form of sort of dull bit of warmth underneath there, which I don't want to make too much of, and I've just made too much of it. So let's just soften that away. There we go. A little bit of that in the distance. Don't play around too much. Just the shadow work to go in. Now I'm coming closer because I just want to finish off the shape of the tree, just putting in one or two. I don't want to impede on that church, but overall I think I'm pretty much there, really. There's a nice bit of overhang here like that, and another one there, because I need to give that feeling of size rather than, there you go. Let's call it a day. Right, shadows, and this is only what I'd class as a glaze, really, of the red and the blue. I've wetted the brush And I've used the red and the blue there. A bit more blue to start, no white at this stage because I need a bit of a transparency to it all. Not a lot of shadow. This is what we're going to watch out for. So we mustn't get too carried away. But there will be, so I'm going to put in a bit more shadow. See the way immediately you get that sense of light once you put in shadow. Look at that. There you go. And we're going to put in a little along the edge of that sort of where the river is, not too much, and a little along there, just to, always use a finger just to soften in places if required. Then I'm going to go straight into this foreground with a sweeping, and I'm using blue. There's lots of reds in there and warm tones, so I'm sweeping blues in. So I've created light when there isn't any. And when you do the track, make it put the same way as the track runs. That's it. Then we have a smidgen of that there, and that's, is that a technical term? Well, that's my technical term. And there again, draw the brush at that angle. Whoops, a bit heavy. There you go. And I'm just going to have a little bit of softened shadow work here along that area. It is a dull, murky day, but we do have some nice sort of subtle shadows, if you like, and they need to be shown in places. It's always a matter of in places, because if you put them in the wrong place, then quite often you lose the atmosphere of it all. There we are, a little bit darker there, that's it, there we go. Bit of subtle light there just coming through. So it is a dull day, but it's got a bit of light, and this is the idea of this exercise or painting, is that you actually create light on a dull day. And I'm just going in here and there, just a touch, just one or two little touches here and there. There, and I think that, as far as I can see, and as far as I need to, has got to be what I'd say calling it a day. A little bit of touch there, just feels a little bit out of sync there, but other than that, let's take the surround away and see what we've got. Well, there you have it. The surround has been taken away. That's the painting, the acrylic, and if I just pan up gently to the subject that's in front of me this morning, and as I say, to, I suppose, the untrained eye, it doesn't look particularly inviting, but you've got to look for colour even if it isn't there, and if you can spot that, then you're halfway to producing an acceptable painting, I suppose. And now I'm going to sign the picture, and I'm going to sign it in the right hand corner. Yeah, let's sign it here to make certain that the brush isn't too loaded, because I need to get my signature in a way that I've created recently. So there you have it, signed up and ready to be taken home back to the studio.